Citadelle Gin is the pioneer of handcrafted French gin. Citadelle was born in 1996 from the mind of Maison Ferrand owner and master blender Alexandre Gabriel as the first Gin de France. The newest release, Citadelle Jardin d'été, is inspired by a French garden and really is like summer in a glass. Citadelle was named Brand Innovator of the Year by Gin Magazine, awarded 96 points at Top 100 Spirits from Ultimate Spirits Challenge, double gold at San Francisco World Spirits Competition, and ranked number 6 best-selling gin by Drinks International. Cheers to Citadelle Gin, and now here we go with our show. Welcome to the Cocktail Guru Podcast,
a show about food, drink, and entertainment,
with a tight focus on the good life,
and all things delicious, luxurious, and fun.
I'm Jonathan Pogash, bartender, author, and the host of Cocktails The Grand Tour.
And I'm Jeffrey Pogash, wine and spirits professional, author, insatiable collector of culinary ephemera, and so people tell me, an engaging raconteur.
And my dad. Okay, here we are once again, another episode of the Cocktail Guru Podcast with none other than Mr. Jeffrey Pogash at my side here. How are you, Dad?
I'm great. Thank you, John. Just waiting to enjoy this cocktail. I'll be even better after this drink.
Can you hear this?
Yes, I can. And do you know what I have in my glass? I have a Lustau Sherry cobbler.
Oh,
that's right, a Lustau Sherry cobbler, and I'm using Lustau PX, Pedro Jimenez, because this is a show about all things luxurious and hedonistic.
I don't know about the hedonistic part. That's a little different here, Dad.
Well, but I am, and I love PX, and that to me, that's
so. I have the Oloroso, and this is actually a cocktail in honor of our guest. It is the Barba Negra. I'm not sure if it's still served at the bar that she owns, but it has been on the menu, and it's lovely. I'm going to take a little sip. Hold on.
Well, I'm going to take a sip of mine. Cheers.
So it has many different things in it. So it has sherry. I'm using the Lustau, mezcal, creme de banane, fernet, sweet vermouth, and it's lovely. You may think about all those ingredients in your head, and you're like, wait a minute, what? That does not work, but it does work, and you can taste everything, and it's so well-rounded. It's such a great drink.
I made my own rendition of this drink by adding a little bit of Gary Regan's orange bitters.
Oh, yes.
I had to do that.
Gaz, rest his soul, and his name will come up again probably as we're chatting with our next guest. Would you like to introduce our next guest, Father?
Yes, son. I would love to. I'm just, I'm so excited about our next guest because she has had the greatest influence on what is known as the craft bar or lounge of anyone in the world. In addition to being an immensely talented mixologist, she has created a number of the most famous craft cocktail bars, including Flatiron Lounge, Clover Club, Kai, and Leyenda. And she has influenced countless other bars throughout the world, many of which are owned and run by women. If this were not enough, she is also the founder of a consulting company called Mixtress. And of course, I'm referring to the incomparable Julie Reiner.
Yay!
Welcome, Julie.
Thank you so much for having me, Jonathan and Jeff. Great to see you and hear your voices.
It's wonderful to see you after all this time. It's been a very long time.
We go way back.
We do. And, yes. Julie, before we get into things, I always like to ask our guest, if there was one cocktail that you were stranded on a desert island with, what would that cocktail be?
Well, that's a tough question. I would have to say a Negroni. Because, it's like you think desert island. Initially, I'm like, oh, daiquiri all the way. But I don't know. I drink more Negronis than anything else over the course of a year at any season, So I'd have to say the Negroni.
I like it.
Even on a desert island.
Great drink. Yeah.
Fantastic. This is very special, Dad.
Oh, this is an incredible honor to have Julie Reiner with us as our guest, because like Dale DeGroff, the interview with Dale, this is truly of historic proportions. And we thank Julie for being with us, of course. Now let's start at the beginning, Julie.
All the way, Julie. We're going way back.
Tell us about your childhood, please.
That's quite a question.
Gosh.
But we found out during our pre-interview. That's what we called that. That was a pre-interview that we just did earlier. That you were not born in Hawaii, but a lot of people might have thought that. But you actually were born where?
So I was actually born in Syracuse, New York, where my mom was like visiting her family, and I was born early.
Oh, wow.
So it was an unexpected. My parents didn't actually live in Syracuse, but my mom grew up in Syracuse, and I ended up being born there. But yeah, I moved to Hawaii when I was in kindergarten because my dad, was in the 1 hour photo lab business, where I'm sure you remember you would take pictures with your actual camera that had film in it.
Remember.
And you would have to take it to the photo lab, and they had 1 hour photo, and you would drop off your film and get your pictures back in an hour. How times have changed, right?
Most people listening to podcasts these days have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
No, I'm still doing the same thing.
There were no cell phones. Yeah.
Oh, Dad still does the same thing. Dad still drops his photos off at the kiosk at the mall.
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, you can still get 1 hour photo. It's out there. But yeah, that was why we moved to Hawaii. And so I was there starting from kindergarten through graduating from high school.
And what was it like growing up on Oahu?
Oahu was a great place to live and grow up. I feel like, having an island sort of childhood, there's just a laid back sort of atmosphere in Hawaii. There's a lot of culture there. Between the hula and the food, a lot of Asian influence in Hawaii. And it was just a really fantastic place to grow up. I went to a private all-girls school on the side of Diamond Head that I loved. And it was tiny school. And it was just beach picnics on the weekends and lots of friends and great weather. So
it was beach blanket bingo.
Yeah, it was good. It was a great place to grow up.
And did your parents drink cocktails? Did you watch adults drinking cocktails? Did they ask you to make cocktails as a kid? How did that?
Yeah. Well, my parents entertained a lot. They were always very social, having dinner parties and people over all the time. And, I started out really like passing hors d'oeuvres at my parents' parties and helping my mom blend up like mango margaritas and passing those around. We had like an enormous mango tree in our backyard, and we had a lychee tree in the front yard. So I would pick these. We had too many mangoes to know what to do with. So my mom did oftentimes blend up daiquiris or margaritas with the mangoes when they were in season. And I would always help her with parties, and I was sort of her hostess assistant.
That sounds familiar, because I think I was kind of given that task as a child. It wasn't with cocktails; it was with wine and food mostly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And I was going to ask. Yep, please.
Yeah, no, they did both wine and cocktails, but my mom always liked a theme, so she had themed parties quite often and would have a matching cocktail to go with it.
I was wondering if we had the same parents, because I too served cocktails and food hors d'oeuvres to my parents' guests, of which there were many, because they too they catered many parties and had so many friends that they felt obliged to have parties at least once a month. So I was always quite busy working on their behalf.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was something that my mom's parents, same thing. Like they had in the 40s were having cocktail parties, and my mom would help with. So it's definitely, my grandfather with the martini at 5 o'clock every day. it certainly is. It's in the blood.
That's what my father did. He came home at
Wait a minute.
6:29 every night,
Did
and
you
he
guys
made himself a martini.
Did you guys
Same
have the
family.
same parents?
Same
Are we
family.
like
It sounds like,
are we all
yeah.
related? Is this is very very
Well,
It's
Jonathan, you
spooky.
might remember a drink that was on the Flatiron menu called the One-Eyed Jack. That
Oh
was
yeah.
actually that was named after my grandfather, One-Eyed Jack.
Oh my!
Amazing.
Oh, that's wow, wow. So eventually, you moved to Florida.
I
Did you
did.
not?
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
I moved a lot when I was, yeah, we moved a lot even before I got to Hawaii. But I left Hawaii my junior year. My parents moved to Florida. I was a junior in high school. I was so mad. I was like, seriously, you're moving me from
Hmm.
Hawaii to
No.
Orlando? I was not happy about that. I went to school in Orlando for the first semester of my junior year, and then I basically moved out of the house at that point because I was like, I can't
Oh,
stay here.
so you were like, I don't want to. I can't go to this school. I can't stay home. So and you were in high school.
I was in high school and I went back to Hawaii and I lived with my best friend and her family for part of the year. And then I lived with my high school boyfriend's family. He was at college and I was sort of like a, adopted daughter for them. And they had empty nest and they were just like, come and stay in his room. So I was like, okay.
Wow.
So yeah, so I lived there until I graduated from high school from La Pietra on the side of Diamond Head. And then I ended up going to college in Florida because my dad was like, if I'm paying for your education, you're going in Florida. And I was like, I wanted to go to college. I didn't want to pay for it. So I went to Florida State University, jammed through school in 4 years, and packed my car and drove to the most liberal place I could think of, San Francisco.
San Francisco.
But wait a
Absolutely.
second. You studied communications at Florida State University, right?
Yes. Yep. I
Yes.
was a general communications. So it was PR, marketing, advertising, media production, media performance, kind of an overview of the whole communications program there.
And how did you envision your future career, having majored in communications?
I had no idea what I wanted to do. I remember I was graduating from college with this degree that was like general comm because I was like, I'm good at a lot of these things, but how do you know what you want to do with yourself? I really
Right.
I didn't have a lot of direction. I could have certainly used a little bit more mentoring from my parents or, friends or whatever, but
Someone.
yeah, from anyone, like help me figure out what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. All I knew was that Florida was not the place for me, and that I needed to go to California. So I was like,
Wow.
I'm just going to go there, and then I'll figure out what I want to do. But I
What did you
really
do?
was.
You just got you stayed with friends, or you got an apartment? You got a
So when I first got there, I stayed with my aunt and uncle, and they had a company. Was a computer cable company, right? And they were like, "Oh, why don't you do marketing for us?" And I was like, "Okay." Now I have this degree. Oh, sure. So I started working for them, and I was bored to tears sitting at a desk every day. I had been bartending all through college. I've been working in food and beverage.
Ah.
It was I would be bartending at the pub, and this place that was ridiculous in Tallahassee, Florida. And all of my friends would come in and they would all get hammered like college kids do. And I would get back to the dorm and they would just be like pulling each other up and down the hallway, like total fools. And I would go in my room and I would have a giant wad of cash. And I was like,
sweet.
this is good. They're hungover and my pocket. I'm going shopping.
What was what was the signature drink of Tallahassee circa 1993?
Oh God. Well, they used to do what we called bladder bust, where it was free beer until somebody went to the bathroom.
Oh my God.
So all of the football players would stand outside of the bathrooms, like, with their arms crossed, not allowing anybody to use the restroom. So I bartended at that place. It was beer, shots, not a lot of mixology happening. I've certainly started looking into more classic cocktails at the time, but it was, Jack and Coke,
But it
that kind of stuff.
but it launched your bartending career.
Well, it launched my love for controlling the flow of alcohol in the room.
Huh. That's
And realizing
a very interesting way to put it.
and realizing the power that gives you, and the respect that you get from being behind the bar. I loved it. I loved being the, overseeing the party from behind the bar. It was always something that I really enjoyed. So when I got to San Francisco, I started working at my aunt's company, and I was just like, this is not for me. And so I started looking into bar and cocktail jobs, and ended up working in cocktail lounges and bars in San Francisco, because I was just like, well, that's not what I want to do. I really loved the bar business, so I kind of just went back to it. And just bartended in a few different places in San Francisco, and made some lifelong friends, and really was like inspired to open the places that I opened later on in my life.
And it was at a place called the Red Room that you received your initial bartending training? Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. So I had a friend who was the manager of the Red Room, and actually one of the partners of Flatiron Lounge also was a manager at the Red Room. And yeah, so that was sort of like, I went in there in the afternoon and they would yell drinks at me and I would try to make them really quickly because I was trying to get a bartending job in another place. But yeah, that was really where I learned. And then I worked at a place called Asia SF, which was it was like all like drag show. It was a drag show restaurant, basically. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And I was the only born female to work there.
Natural born
female, yeah.
Yes. That was a really good time. I love that place.
Yeah, that must have been a blast.
Yeah. And then I met my future wife in San Francisco, and she had gotten into grad school at NYU.
And so did that bring you to New York?
That was why I came to New York, because I was like, she's super smart. Susan Fedroff is her name. And we hadn't been dating for very long. And she was just like, she gets into NYU for, public policy and finance for grad school. And I was like, I'm just bartending in San Francisco. I can do that anywhere. And I had always wanted to live in New York. And I was just like, you know what? I was 27. I was just like, now is the time. It's kind of now or never, right? So we packed it up and drove across the country and moved to New York City.
And you found a job at a place called C3 Bar?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I worked in a couple other little places before that. But yes, that was like, I started managing this little lounge in the West Village, connected to the Washington Square Hotel, called C3. Now it's called North Square.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting story, is it not? Because your cocktails were so delicious at C3 Bar that the owners fired you.
Correct.
Is that really what happened?
True
oh my gosh!
Story.
I saw the notes. Dad wrote notes about you earlier, and I saw this written down, and I was like, this is a little controversial. I feel like I've heard it before, but let's hear it from
it's
Julie.
The truth. Yeah, no, so I got this job as the bar manager there, and I loved this bar. Was the cutest little spot. It was, like a 1-person bar, and there were maybe 10 or 12 tables in the space. So I would bartend and cocktail waitress at the same time, because I was like a powerhouse cocktail server from working in places, in San Francisco cocktailing. And, so I would go out and take the order, and then I would come back and I'd make the drinks and set everybody up. And, people started coming in, and it was really like Dale came in with Tony Abou-Ganim, was like, "Hey
Mhm.
kid,"
Mhm.
like he was like affiliated with some theater that was the Manhattan Theater Source, I think it was called. It was right next door to the hotel, and he came in. He's like, "I hear you're making some good drinks in here," because I really was just, I started putting out menus, and I was using fresh juices and making my own syrups and doing infusions. And I was really kind of entertaining myself, trying to give people the best thing I could in a glass. And in San Francisco, that was very much the norm of what was happening.
Right.
But in New York, that wasn't what was happening at the time. It was really still like sour mix on the gun and nothing fresh. And the chefs did not really care about the bar, nor did they want to be involved with it. And they also did not want any celebrity bar people, because the restaurant's about them,
Oh my!
So
the chefs around that time, like around when I first
oh
started,
yeah,
2001, 2002, we were
Yep.
ostracized from the kitchen as bartenders, and I
Oh yeah,
had multiple chefs want to get rid of me
yep.
because of that.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what
That's
happened.
exactly
Yeah.
it, right? That's so funny.
Yeah, so Dale came in anyway, and he wrote about, I was doing this blood orange Cosmo with fresh blood orange juice. Was groundbreaking
Yes.
at the time, right?
Yeah.
1998, it was groundbreaking. So he came in, he wrote about it in this 411 magazine. I'm sure you remember that, Jeff. Like
I
it
do.
was something that people would look at to see where to go, because this was
Mhm.
before the internet, really, before you could go on and find out where you should go. So they had these little pamphlets all over the city. It was called 411, and it had all these different things in it. So that was sort of where it started. And then, Rick Marin from the New York Times, who was a writer, and Amanda Hesser came in because they were asking around about like apple martinis, because I think at the time in LA the apple martini started.
Yes.
And I had never tried an apple martini, of course, with apple pucker is what they were talking about.
Mhm.
So I was like, they came in asking about it, and I was like, oh well, if I was going to do an apple martini, I would want it to taste like you're biting into an apple but with a kick.
Yeah.
So I infused vodka with Granny Smith green apples, and then I used like a pommeau and a little bit of cider, and I made this apple martini. And they wrote about it. It was like the front page of the food section of the New York Times. So the little bar in the West Village, all of a sudden, was like all of these people were coming in, and you had to walk through the restaurant to get to the bar in the back. So the restaurant became a walkway to get to the bar. Which did not make the chef or the restaurant manager very happy.
No, they want all the glory. The chef
Yes,
wants
but it generated business for them. I don't get it.
I mean, for me,
They were making money.
I thought that it was my job to fill the bar and sell as many drinks as I possibly could. That was like what I thought my job was.
Right.
Apparently not. Yeah. So they went to the owner and they told her that I was going to open my own place and steal their clientele. And so, she called me in to her office and fired me with the two of them in the room. I was like, who fires somebody with their colleagues present, first of all, right?
Weird. It's ego.
It's weird. But you know what? It lit a fire under my ass, and I then was like, okay, I'll show them.
I'm gonna open my own place.
My own bar. Yes,
I am going to open my own place, and it's going to be so much better.
And it was.
And you did in 2002, and it was called Flatiron Lounge.
Yeah, 2001 we opened Flatiron Lounge.
Oh, 2001.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And you opened it with Susan and a couple other
Bedroff, Michelle Connolly, who was the manager at the Red Room, who was a friend, and then the Cossies, who were a family. They also Alex Cossi owned the Zinc Bar, which is like a jazz bar. It's been open a really long time in the West Village, and his sister did all of the design for Flatiron. It was a dream come true to open that place.
And it made history because it was one of the first craft cocktail bars to be owned and operated by women.
Yes,
Right.
it was. It was
I mean,
also one of the first craft cocktail bars to be opened by anyone,
To be opened, by
Yes.
anyone,
regardless of their gender.
By anyone. Yes, exactly.
and it also made history because I was taken pity on for as a lowly bartender. I applied for a job. Actually, it was because in 2005 when Pegu opened up, I reached out to Gary Regan, who was one of my an amazing friend to all, and he was one of my first mentors aside from Dad, and one of your mentors, I'm sure, Julie, as well.
Yep.
And I was working for him at the time, doing administrative work, asking brands for money, sponsorship.
Yeah.
And I said, Gaz, I was bartending too, other places, not craft cocktail places, and I said, Gaz, I'd love to try and get a job. Maybe Audrey can put me in touch with someone. And so he put me in touch with Audrey, and Audrey said, I think let's put you in touch with Julie. And and that was that. And you took pity on me, and you were like, who the fuck is this green ass bartender who thinks he knows his shit? Who the hell does he think he is? Let's stick him down in the hole on Saturday nights.
Oh, the hole. It was a special place.
Well, I don't care where it was.
Some of the best bartenders in America did hard time in the hole at Flatiron. So it was a learning zone for sure.
Tell people what the hole is.
Yeah, so so Flatiron Lounge had 2 floors, and the downstairs had a hidden service bar. So you were kind of behind this wall. And originally when I built it, I was like, I'm going to love this. It'll be a nice escape from not having to, the upstairs at Flatiron was insane. It was so busy, so many people in your face. It was a high volume bar. And, I thought the thought of being in this hidden service bar where you don't talk to anybody, you only see the servers when they come in to get their drinks, sounded great. Of course, I think I worked one night back there, and I was like, nope, I really like the action of the people. But it did end up being a very good training ground when we were really trying to teach new bartenders the cocktails, and they could, make the drinks without having to worry about taking care of guests. And it was a really good teaching tool.
It was the ultimate cockpit for a bartender too. I mean, things were just in places you would underneath you, behind you, above you. Everything was everywhere. And a couple of, working at Flatiron taught me about craft cocktails and good ice, good glassware, good ingredients. I was doing a little bit of that at other places, but this was intense. And then I think I did Monday nights maybe as well. Just to kind of get behind the main bar
upstairs.
And a couple of things I remember that I still talk about to this day. When I first started up there, I think you were showing me how to do cocktails, or someone was, and you were watching over, and I had a glass that I was chilling. I had a martini glass with ice in it. And then I went to start make the drink, and then I took the glass with ice and I dumped the ice into the ice well. And you turned to someone and you were like, did he just dump the ice into the ice well? And I said, oh my gosh, I did. I'm so sorry. I should not do that. But I was used to doing that. And then also you taught me about Death Valley, which is where bad spirits go to die. And I still use that to this day. And I stick, these spirits like apple pucker, nothing against, people who make apple pucker, but it's one of those that you just kind of put in a lower shelf away. Maybe someone wants it. You just pull it if they need it. And that's that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't the apple that I didn't want the Jolly Rancher style taste. I'm always looking for authentic flavors.
We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Marie Brizard liqueurs, created and founded in 1755, are a staple on my backbone. With expressions like crème de cassis, anisette, and chocolat royal, I just love saying that. It allows me to flex my bilingual French skills. They allow for the creative expression in cocktails we've all been looking for. Here's a list of classics you can make with Marie Brizard. The Aviation with Parfait Amour, Kir Royale with crème de cassis, a frappé with anisette, the list goes on. Needless to say, we're big fans. Right, Dad? He's nodding yes. Oh, and they're 100% natural. Visit MarieBrizardUSA.com and follow them on social. at Marie Brizard USA. And now we're back. Dad, what did you want to bring up?
A few years into Flatiron, you helped Audrey open up Pegu Club, did you not?
Yeah, I was a partner at Pegu. So
Yeah.
Pegu was another, Audrey was the face of Pegu Club, but I was, Susan and I both were owners of Pegu as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So we opened Pegu in 2005. Sadly, we had to close Pegu at the very beginning of the pandemic.
Yes.
It was the second floor space, which we knew was not going to be easy. And also the lease was nearing its end, and it was sort of like, do we renew it for another 5 years? There was just too much, too many things that were unsure at the time. So we ended up closing Pegu then.
But you ended up opening Clover Club in 2008.
Yep. Right? 2008, we opened Clover Club in Brooklyn.
Huge to have a place like that in Brooklyn, because again, what you did for Flatiron in Manhattan, you did for Brooklyn, basically.
Yeah. Well, I had moved out to Brooklyn, and I was like, there's nothing like what we do out here, and I started talking to Dave Wondrich, who lives in the neighborhood, and I was asking Dave his opinion. It's like, I don't know, what do you think, Smith Street, or do you think Park Slope, or, and he was just like, Smith Street all the way, which later on he admitted, like, selfishly, he wanted Clover Club to be close enough for him to walk to from his house. But he wasn't wrong. It's a great neighborhood. And we've been open there. It'll be, 14 years this summer.
Yes, but only 1 year into the opening of Clover Club, you were awarded Best New Cocktail Lounge in the world.
Yes.
At Tales of the Cocktail.
Yeah. We were very lucky with Tales. Yeah, getting some awards over at Clover.
Best mentor for you in 2013. Yep. Mixologist of the Year, Wine Enthusiast 2014, and 2015. Wow, what a stretch! And then you opened Leyenda with Ivy.
Yes. Yep.
And what is that? That's just across the street from Clover Club.
Yes, right across the street. It was one of those. So it's the same owner. Our landlord is the same, and he came to us like in December one year and was just like, "I want you girls to take my space." Very like old school Brooklyn, because he'd had like a couple failed restaurants in that space, and he knew that we have a good track record with running bars that are open for quite a long time. And so we started talking about it. We were just like, well, if we're going to open something across the street from ourselves, it needs to be the polar opposite of what we do at Clover Club. And at the time, Ivy was actually talking to a friend. She really wanted to open a place. It was a very different concept, but we thought, being that her passion is all things agave, we went to her and said, would you be interested in opening a place that focuses on all of those south of the border spirits, and your passion for that part of the world and all of these spirits? And she was, it took her like a couple minutes to say yes. And the rest is history. But yeah, Leyenda, I think we'll be 6 years old this summer.
Wow.
And that was in 2015 that you opened it, the same year as the publication of your book, The Craft Cocktail Party.
The same month.
Same month. Amazing drinks for every occasion.
Yes. Yeah. Wow. I wrote the book. I would get emails and phone calls all the time from family and friends and my mom and my sister-in-law asking me, what should I make for Thanksgiving, or what should I make for this beach picnic we're having? And, so I got really tired of emailing people recipes, and I was like, I'm going to start putting these things together, So the book is separated by seasons that you might entertain, and then occasions within those seasons. So the drinks are in the book are all really meant for the home bartender, more so than the professional mixologist. Because, I'm like, there are things that we do in the bars that I would never do at home,
Right.
Sure.
It's just too much of a pain in the butt, So there are certainly some recipes in the book that are, tougher than others, but for the most part, it's really meant to be how to make really great drinks at home that are not overly fussy.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
We should sprinkle in the fact that in 2010 you opened Lanikai on Broom Street.
Of course.
I cannot forget it. And you did not want to call it a tiki bar. What did you want to call it, or what did you call it?
No, well, I mean, for me, I wanted it to be. It was modern tropical, right? Which now, cut to like 2022, everybody knows what modern tropical means, right? But at that point, it was like New Yorkers were just like, if it wasn't tiki, they did not get it. They didn't understand it.
Right.
It was like, kitsch tiki or it's nothing. So I found myself like talking more about what it wasn't than what it was, which I was like, oh, this is bad. Because like in Hawaii, I designed it very much to be like hotels in Hawaii. They're elegant and tropical. So, and modern, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not like, we're not talking about like 50s, 60s.
Right.
Not
like my
more retro. Right. Exactly. That was not what I was going for, but that was what New Yorkers wanted. So people didn't really get it. That was, the space itself was really big. It was a lesson in always listen to your first instinct, because I walked into that space and I was like, I don't know, it's really big and it's a weird location.
Wow. So that was your first instinct.
Those were the first things I said when I walked in to look at that space. And from there, I was sort of like, bullied into, oh, this is the right space and we should do this. And, so it ended up happening. And, the bar itself downstairs was popular and did very well. But the restaurant space on the top floor was hard to fill. It was just a big space too. And not, central Soho, kind of a weird, like, it was like the entrance to the Holland Tunnel, on Broome. It was a challenging space, but there's so many things about it that I love, that I loved. And a lot of people have very fond memories of Lanikai.
And it was named after the singer and actor?
It was named after Lanikai Beach, which is one of my favorite places on Oahu in Kailua.
But there's a singer and actor named Lanikai as well.
Oh, yeah? Huh,
yes, he was in Blue Hawaii with Elvis Presley.
Of course he was.
Yes, he was. But I didn't realize it was the name of a beach. Yes.
Yes, you should Google it. It is one of the most beautiful places on earth. Which is why I named it that.
And if we're talking about if we're talking about timing and Lanikai, how maybe the timing didn't quite work, what I think did work for you is in 2020, you started a company called Social Hour, canned cocktails. I mean, what a perfect time to basically be the first craft cocktail in a can before these times.
My partner Tom Macy and I have been actually working on Social Hour for quite a few years. I mean, we're such perfectionists with creating cocktails to serve over the bar, and it was the same process trying to put something in a can. We didn't want to put something out that we weren't as happy with as the cocktail that we can make a la minute over the bar. So it was quite a lengthy process, and we were getting ready to launch Social Hour in April of 2020. Wow. Bad timing. Wow. I mean, good timing, but also, I was like, damn it, couldn't we have just done this a few months sooner?
Yeah.
But we ended up actually pausing because, of course, the pandemic hit and we lost some of our funding because some of the people who were investing were restaurant and bar owners who immediately were like, oh shit, I can't put that money in there anymore.
Right.
So we ended up launching in August or July of 2020, a few months later, which was, timing was great. It's very hard to sell to liquor stores when you can't even walk in the door without a mask on, and you're
right.
like outside with a sign, hey, but social hour is doing great. We're really excited. We have 6 flavors now, 6 different expressions, and we're hoping to get into more markets over the coming years.
Cool.
Well,
and I know that you
congratulations
also
on that.
Oh yes, congratulations.
Yeah.
I know you also consult for bars across the country, world, probably. And what do you have any happenings coming up, or what any projects that you're working on?
Mixtress.
I am working. Yeah, I've been doing. I mean, over the course of the pandemic, I started teaching Zoom cocktail classes out of my home bar.
Oh yes.
And I'm still doing them. I know that you are very familiar with that as well, Jonathan.
Absolutely. It's almost like I was kind of made to do that.
Yeah,
in a really funny way.
Yeah, I taught over 100 classes of the first year of the pandemic out of this very bar right behind me. And I love it. It's so funny because I am just in the way that I wrote the book for the home bartender, it's so much more fun to teach people at home how to make a great cocktail than like nerdy bartenders who know it all. I'm like, at this point in my career, like they all know more than I do. Like it's fine.
Yeah.
Right. But teaching somebody at home how to stir up a proper old fashioned or how to make a siesta, and talking to them about tequila, it's so much fun. And I'm still doing it. And, I created like a box with my book and the whole bit. So it's actually, that was really fun. But that was not the part of the original question. What was I supposed to be talking about?
What you're doing,
Mixtress. Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
So yes, the consulting jobs actually in person have started up again. I'm actually currently working on the Boca Raton Resort with Ivy Mix, doing some work with those guys. I've done a lot of work in Hawaii, over the course of my career, because anything I can do to get back to Hawaii is great. So the Andaz Wailea was one of my accounts. Which I know you were at a neighboring hotel, I think, in Wailea as well, weren't you?
Oh,
or maybe not. Maybe that wasn't. I thought that you were.
You did a property on Oahu also, right?
Yeah, the Kahala.
The Kahala, yes. I did a small cocktail bar in Kona.
Okay.
That was, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, anything that I can do to bring me there. Sure. I also originally consulted on Michelle Rundgren's bar in Kauai called Tiki Aniki. That is, it's a crazy place. If you ever get to Kauai, you should check that tiki bar out.
Ooh. I'm there. I'll be there tomorrow.
He's there already. He's
I'm
on his
really
way.
Anxious to get out of this house.
He is. He tells me every day. His bags are packed. He's like, Jonathan, when are we going? Where are we going? Let's go. Let's do this. And hopefully we'll all be able to meet up somewhere where we can do this and we can hang out and laugh and have cocktails. And we always have a great time with you, Julie. You always bring the fun, which I love. And you don't take things too seriously, and you're a great mentor, and you're a great friend to a lot of people. So thank you for allowing us to chat. Thanks for allowing us to chat with you today.
Yes, thank you, Julie.
This was great. When you reached out, I was like, yes, I haven't. 2 of my favorite people in the business. And it's funny because I've had a relationship with Jeff early on in my career, coming into the bars and working within distribution. And then Jonathan, having you behind the bar and watching your career just go bananas. So congrats to you as well. And, I know so many friends that work with you, and it's been fun for me to watch.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. We could obviously go on and on, but alas, the time has come. So thank you again, Julie. And we'll see you very soon.
It was such a pleasure, Julie. Thank you.
Wow, Dad, that was quite a show.
It was fantastic, yes.
Julie Reiner is such an inspiration, and she's a powerhouse. She really is.
Yes, she is. She was an inspiration to you and to me and to everyone else in the bartending and mixology business.
And speaking of inspiration and inspiring flavors, I wanted to give everybody watching and listening a little bonus tasting with you, Dad, and myself. And we have Citadelle Jardin d'été.
Yes.
That we're going to pour a little sample of and taste. This is a new bottling from Citadelle Gin in France. Jardin d'été is an infusion of 22 fruits and aromatics. And I think I'm going to pour myself a little bit. And
I just poured myself some, and I've been tasting without you.
You've been doing a lot of tasting without me.
I have.
Beforehand.
And those botanicals that are in here really come through beautifully.
And I thought I would taste out of this lovely, elegant glass that I have here. Kind of
lovely. Very nice.
Like a Nick and Nora glass. Oh yes, it's definitely. It still obviously has the juniper in it, but I get a nice citrus, orange, and melon. Even
that's exactly what's coming. I'm getting a lot of citrus in the nose right now, making it very soft, and I know it's going to be extremely palatable when I taste it.
Let's taste it. Oh yes, it's. What I love is that it's so mild. And it doesn't hit you in the face. You can see it working well in a classic martini. That's a little less juniper forward, I think.
Or a gin and tonic would be fantastic.
And the floral.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Jonathan. I'm getting not only the lovely citrus flavor, but in the finish, I'm getting this floral, fragrant character, which is
what's interesting?
Not something you find very often in gin.
Yes. So one of the botanicals. Some of the botanicals include violet, so that you get some floral. Cumin, which is different. Very Mediterranean.
There's angelica.
And the melon flesh gives it that kind of melon, I think. Well, this is great. Cheers, Dad.
Cheers, John.
Another great show. Here's to many more.
Yes, thank you. That does it for today's show. If you enjoy what we do, please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. You can also support the show with a small monthly donation to help sustain future episodes. Just click on the donate button at the top of our website and choose your donation amount. To learn more about future guests, visit www.thecocktailgurupodcast.com or follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram.
The Cocktail Guru podcast is produced by First Reel Entertainment and distributed by EatsDrinksTV, a service of the Center for Culinary Culture, home of the Cocktail Collection, and is available via Anchor, Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, and wherever you listen to your favorite shows.